Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Today, I'll take you on a journey through the history of Alzheimer's and the classic cars that many people admire, collect, and enjoy in everyday life. So, we'll look at how cars started, how they changed over the years, and why they became such a beloved piece of history. The story begins in the late 1800s when everyone was still going around on horses and carriages and a certain man named Karl Benz invented what people often describe as the first real car. It had three wheels and a small engine. It didn't go very fast, but it changed everything because it proved that motorized travel was possible. And a bit later, in the early 1900s, companies began actually building and prototyping cars. So one of the big names for this was Henry Ford, which everyone knows from the Ford cars, and he created the Model T, uh, and which was so different because the Model T was the first car that was actually affordable for everyday people, which meant that families could also afford to buy cars instead of only the rich people. So this was very simple to what this was a very simple car compared to what we drive today, but it helped shape the future of transportation in many ways. And then after World War II uh, it changed the car scene heavily because car makers started to care about the appearance of cars, which is why many people still love it today because they started making cars with big tail fins and bold designs, chrome wheels, and the European brands focus more on small and sporty cars, for example. And this period also gave us a lot of classic cars, such as the Volkswagen Beetle, the Mini Cooper, the Ford Mustang. So these cars are still pretty popular today with collectors and car lovers. Um, Today, old-timers remind us of how far we've come in technology and design, and they help keep automotive history and the community thriving and alive.
And to continue from what was just discussed, the community thing, I'd like to focus on something that's really important to all the people that own old timers, and it brings our passion out, and that's old timer car meets. Old timer meets are gatherings where enthusiasts bring their vintage vehicles to share stories, knowledge, and appreciation for automotive history. These events have a very unique feeling compared to the modern car meets where you hear engines revving, you hear the loud cars, all of them are modified and customized, but at the old timer car meet it's different. It's calm, nostalgic, and filled with passion for craftsmanship. At the typical meet, you'll find cars from different eras, such as the 50s, the iconic 60s, the 70s, and some even much older pre-war vehicles. Every car has its own story. Some of them are in museum conditioning, shining like they just left the factory. Other are showing age, character, and history. Owners know every detail, of course, and spend many months or even years restoring their vehicle, searching for rare parts, learning old techniques, and keeping these machines alive. People attend old timer car meets for many reasons. Some come simply to display their pride and joy, others visit to learn how to rebuild a carburetor, where to find original chrome parts, and how to maintain old paint. The community is supportive, welcoming, and full of experience. Some people even sell their car at those events. One thing that makes these meetings special is the atmosphere. You will slowly walk between classics while hearing conversations like, my grandfather drove one just like this. This car was stuck in a barn for 30 years before I saved it. These stories connect people not just through cars but through memories. Respect is important too. Nobody touches anyone's car without permission. Things are kept relaxing, wait, my bad. We keep things relaxing and we appreciate the history that each vehicle represents. So to sum it all up, old timer car meets are more than just cars in a parking lot. They are living history, a place where passion is shared, knowledge is passed on, and automotive heritage stays alive for future generations.
Speaking of the future generations, I would like to talk about the appearance of Alzheimer's in video games and popular media such as movies. Um, when I'm talking about these, I'm talking about the famous Hudson Hornet or the DeLorean, for example, that we know from Back to the Future. Um, but these are obviously movie examples. Some game examples would be from like Grand Theft Auto 5, which would be some vehicles that would also feature in the 007 movies, such as the Sunbeam Alpine or the Lotus Esprit Turbo. Um, but these games often have so much passion for these vehicles that they like to add an extra twist, such as adding weapons to these vehicles. For example, the ones that I mentioned that appear in the James Bond movies have actual weapons built into them, which I think comes from a certain place in their heart where they are like, we like these vehicles, but we like to make them more than just a piece of art. Um, so they add these crazy things to exaggerate the beauty of these vehicles. Um, more more video games such as Forza Horizon or Cyberpunk 2077 also have their own iterations of these vehicles included in their games. Now, any reason that could be behind eternalizing these vehicles in a game or a movie, for example, could be because of yeah, the passion that they share, the love that they have for these vehicles, and you know, any creativity they put behind these extras just goes to show how far they like to go to um, show the beauty of those vehicles truly. And like I said, it's a form of eternalization of the vehicles so that future generations can look back when they consume this media and be like, wow, these classic vehicles are really a beautiful thing from the past that we are happy to be able to still experience. Now, speaking of vehicles that you grow a passion for by consuming this media, I actually happen to have gotten a shirt in today of a video game that I played that features an old station wagon. Um, the game is called Pacific Drive, and I got really captured by the story and I've grown fond of the way the vehicle just was a big part of the journey. And so you sort of grow attached to that very thing that helped you get through the story.
Yeah, thank you, Jonas. Uh, Today I'm gonna talk about the value of the classic cars, both emotional and financial. First, let's look at the emotional value. Classic cars are more than machines. They are like time capsules. They carry stories, memories, and feeling of nostalgia that modern cars simply can't create. For many people, a classic car reminds them of their childhood, a family member who once owned that model, or a time when driving was more than an experience or more than a technology. Uh, Owning a classic car often feels like owning a piece of history. Every scratch, every sound, every original detail has meaning. And that emotional connection is a big part of why people cherish them so very much. Now, there's also a financial side of it. Classic cars can also be a strong investment because many models are rare or they become rare over time. Their value often increases, especially when they are well maintained, restored or restored with original parts, or come with iconic brands, unlike new cars, which lose value at the moment when you drive off the dealership. A classic car can appreciate year after year because they become rarer and rarer. Collectors and investors look at factors like production numbers, historical significance, and the condition of the car to determine what the long-term value is. Some classic cars, some models, even outperform traditional investments like stocks or real estates or even crypto. That's another question, but yeah, they are very valuable if they are well maintained.
Thank you, Kevin. That was very interesting. Oldtimer regulations across Europe are evolving rapidly, largely due in the increasing number of low emission zones that restrict access for vehicles with higher pollution levels. Cities such as Brussels, Antwerp, Paris, and London are tightening their environmental policies to improve air quality, which means that many classic cars no longer meet the required emission standards. This development creates a significant challenge for enthusiasts who value the cultural, historical, and aesthetic importance of those oldtimers. Several countries do recognize the heritage value of those classic vehicles and provide specific exemptions. In Belgium, oldtimers with classic plates receive limited allowance depending on the region, while in Germany permits most historic vehicles with an H plate to enter city centers. London excludes vehicles over 40 years old from its emission charges. However, these policies vary widely, and the freedom to use an original oldtimer in urban areas is gradually decreasing. As a result, many owners are exploring ways to make their classic cars cleaner while maintaining their period correct appearance. Enhancements such as improved ignition systems, more efficient carburetors, optimized fuel mixtures, and upgraded exhaust components can be noticeably reduce emissions without altering the external character of the vehicle. Others opt for a completely electric conversion, preserving the design of the oldtimer while eliminating the emission entirely. This direction is something that personally interests me as well, although I'm not yet restoring oldtimers. I intend to do so in the future, and my aim is to refine an oldtimer internally to make it cleaner and more environmental responsible while keeping its original exterior intact. This approach would allow me to continue enjoying a classic car even within cities that limit or prohibit higher emission vehicles. Ultimately, oldtimers will remain part of our culture, but the methods we use to preserve and operate them must adapt. Through thoughtful tuning and modern technological upgrades, classic cars can both be historical, authentic, and compatible with the environmental standards of the future.
All right, I guess that's a wrap. Thanks everyone for coming along and having a little chat.
Yeah, thank you,
Thanks for
man.
listening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.